Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 96, The Truth Hurts. Yes, this is a pain-themed episode. You may not think pain is a very fun thing to discuss, and maybe sometimes it isn't, even though we've done that on a previous episode. In this episode, we bring back a segment called Wisdom of the Ages, where we analyze little nuggets of wisdom, sayings, or colloquialisms from the past, and we try to determine, are they truly wise or are they anti-wisdom? If you live your life according to the phrase, does it get better or does it get worse? And the phrases that I chose for Daniel to analyze this time all have something to do with pain, more or less. And over the course of our examination of these phrases, we discuss loyalty, confidentiality, the difference between physical and mental pain, and the passage of time. But at the end, we tie it all together and we have Daniel determine whether these three phrases are worthwhile, do they carry wisdom, or not. So we had a fun time. I think this will probably be a segment that we revisit again in the future, and I hope you enjoy.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Bennett. Daniel, good morning.
Good afternoon. That's true for both of us.
It is true. Time travel is possible.
Yes, it's happening now. And when we listen to this in the future, time travel happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that you've talked about before on the podcast is the topic of pain.
Yes.
You've mentioned how it's a phenomenon that's so powerful it simply can't be ignored. People who are in chronic pain or even or acute pain, like it's something that demands your attention.
Yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And we spent a long time discussing it.
Not only does it like demand to be felt, but like it slices through our like philosophies and worldviews and like potentially alters them because
you want to avoid the pain, right?
Yes, like you could make decisions that aren't in harmony with your assuming you're not in pain and everything's like hunky-dory to some extent, that you might make different decisions than when you're like in pain. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly my point, that the experience of pain or the desire to avoid pain is such a fundamental guiding factor in our behavior that it may have even developed, or it may have even played a part in our developing of consciousness and the way we carry out life as we know it. Like our whole culture is impacted by the avoidance of pain or the acceptance of pain or the threat of pain or so on.
Yeah,
so,
how we relate to pain matters, and our definitions of pain. If we indulge in saying extending that pain to mild discomforts, but we relate to it in a way that like suggests mild discomfort is somehow agonizing pain, then we like might respond differently to said situation.
Right. Good point. My point bringing this up is not to revisit the topic of pain necessarily, but just to recognize how fundamental of a concept it is. And so it's no surprise to me that ideas of pain have woven their way into some of our cultural sayings. And that brings me to the topic or the segment that I want to revisit today, which is one that we did once before, like a year ago. We did Wisdom of the Ages. Do you remember doing this?
Wisdom of the Ages!
Ages. I really like that. That's good.
I don't know. That feels like we need a button for each game, and it needs to play.
I don't think we need a button. I think we just need you to say that we need a button every time while you do a thing that could
I think I've done that. It's actually sincere. I wasn't doing it.
I know.
A bit.
Well, I know it's sincere because, like, no joke, you've probably done that maybe more than a dozen times over the course of the podcast. Like,
so funny.
It used to be with the jingle at the beginning of the episodes until we got the AI jingle in
and then
there.
we got a jingle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you've kind of transitioned to, okay, any segment we'll just do.
Yeah. I just really want cheesy, like, like
some
radio
sound effects in
sound
there,
effects,
some
and then
string boings and like sirens and like maybe
all
the
of
orchestra.
the cheesy. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay, Wisdom
good.
of the Ages, though. No, I'm excited.
What Wisdom of the Ages? So if you remember last year we did an episode Wisdom of the Ages, and the gimmick of that is that I scour the history books and the anthropology and the social literature. Actually, I do nothing. I just think about things. But
Think about
I
phrases.
I
Yeah.
pull from my cultural milieu and I generate some phrases that everyone knows, colloquialisms or
Aphorisms. I think.
aphorisms,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Aphorisms or just little bits of wisdom, something that your grandpa might say. And I present one to you, and I have you assess its wisdom. Is it wise, really? Maybe you even quantify it on a scale of 0 to 5, where 5 is like, oh, this is like the golden rule, live your life by these words, and 0 is this is anti-wisdom. If you follow this, your life is going to go on the wrong track.
I remember our conversation. I will admit that I don't necessarily remember everything we do on the podcast, but when it was "Don't judge a book by its cover" is the one that stood out to me, and I said, I don't know what I gave it, probably a 3 or a 4. I was like, yeah, I generally agree, and then you made the case for it being anti-wisdom, and I receive that, Bennett. I receive your criticism of it, and I generally agree, moving me to. I don't know if it's anti-wisdom. I just think on the one hand, like don't reflexively judge things is like okay, like can be very good, but in a specific way. But it can be very dangerous because like there's a lot of built-in like biologically we do have reflexive and instinctual responses, and we should acknowledge those and let that inform our decision making. And so so I come around to like being a little off-put by that aphorism.
Exactly, and that's the kind of that's why I think this has the potential to be an interesting examination, because sometimes we have no filter on these little bits of wisdom. We just accept them as true because they're so culturally pervasive. They're everywhere. And so we let them in and we don't reflect on them. And on the opposite token, sometimes we let them in and we don't think about how profoundly useful they are. Or we think, oh, that's just old saying, who cares? But when actually following it could be true. So, like, some of these phrases, I think, merit further examination and, actually take a minute, think about them, and assess how wise they are. And as with most things, maybe they'll fall somewhere in the middle and be situationally wise, and that's okay too. But picking apart,
so this is going to be about pain. I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
These aphorisms around pain.
Right. I've picked little nuggets of wisdom or sayings that are at least in some way tangentially related to the idea of pain. And so
cool.
We'll examine those.
And I'll try to put a critical eye because I'm assuming I'll hear them and generally find myself nodding in agreement. That's
maybe.
The idea. And maybe not. Let's see.
Maybe not. I picked a few different ones. I think we'll have a well-rounded examination on these a little bit. So I would like to hear from you. Whatever your knee-jerk response is and thoughts on the wisdom. Before we leave each one, I at least want to try to steelman why it could be wise, and then try to think about why it could be not wise.
Yes.
And then I want to get your actual rating. That you come down on at the end. Is it anti-wisdom or is it wisdom?
I'm going to give you, even when you say the phrase, before I even justify, I'm going to give a gut instinct rating and then an end rating after okay. Yeah.
So the first one that I want to examine is sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me.
I tend to think that's anti-wisdom.
Interesting.
And that one I feel kind of strongly about. We'll see if I soften up a little bit. Well, it depends on how you take this. So I'm tending to give it a 1. We'll see if I soften, but that was my knee jerk. I had a little bit of an emotional response.
Yeah.
And the reason being,
I hurt you a little bit by even suggesting.
I'm a little upset. My heart's racing.
Yeah.
I think it's a schoolyard rhyme intended to help kids when they are hurt. So in that regard, it's a reminder of, hey, like, that might have hurt your feelings, but hey, look, you're physically not wounded. It's almost like in some ways, this is maybe nefarious take on it, but like, look, you're not actually hurt. You might feel hurt, but sticks and stones are the ones that break your bones. Those words, they're never gonna hurt you. So like, like it's a hype moment, like help you hype yourself up and say, I'm okay, I'm not actually broken. Like, look, I can look at myself physically. And if you're a kid and you're like, oh, that's true, I'm not, like, my arms are okay, I have a working body, like I'm not actually hurt, and that can help you maybe get out of a rut. I think I'm gonna say something pretty hippie-ish here, but like, I'm increasingly interested in like mind-body connection. We have this clear delineation between the physical and like mental spaces, and I find it interesting both as a thought experiment, but I think as a possible truth that that delineation is like useful to some extent, but like oversimplified. For instance, it seems to be like emerging science about the gut health and anxiety, you know, that there's these things are more linked than we previously believed, like this physical health and this mental health component. And so I think it's, the reason I think it's unwise, like I believe in helping kids or I believe in toughening up and saying the world's gonna like hurt you mentally and physically, and try to acknowledge the differences between them. But like, it feels like a lie. Like, it feels like fundamentally words will never hurt me. Are you kidding? Like, it seems to diminish mental anguish and suffering that is very real. It is to suggest that the only pain worth truly acknowledging is physical, and I like don't appreciate that. And in fact, I would say like there's something like physical pain makes sense. You can look at it, you can put a band-aid on it, you can clean it, it can watch it heal. There's a process that's very logical. It actually is, to me, why people self-harm. Like, if they're experiencing some mental anguish, but they like you know, cut their thighs or their whatever, their arms a little bit, they can kind of like feel it. And that physicality is almost calming because it brings you to this immediate moment in time, and like you can nurture it back to health and watch your body heal, and they're like, this all makes sense. Whereas like mental pain, I don't know that it always makes sense. Like, you spiral,
right,
you have freakouts, it's all like intangible, so you feel crazy. But like a wound on your arm, that isn't crazy. That's right there. I see it. And so there, I said a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way you were going to go on this one. And so I wrote down some thoughts about it. And the very first thought that I wrote down was anticipating you either being uncertain or generally agreeing, considering this wisdom. But I wrote down exactly what you just said. I question, if I were going to try to pick apart this wisdom, I would question the second part of the phrase, words can never hurt me. Can they never hurt me? They, surely they can in some way. And I agree with you that the phrase does diminish the effect of non-physical pain, which certainly I wouldn't argue that non-physical pain doesn't exist. I mean, people can experience all kinds of mental anguish. But if I was going to try to push back against your argument, what you said, I would say that your point about physical pain and people cutting to kind of feel the realness of pain as opposed to the vagary of mental pain, I think that difference is important to think about. We can't control our pain receptors, or we can't think about a cut on our arm and say, don't hurt me, and it stops hurting us, right? Like, it hurts us whether we want it to or not, and that's a consequence of the physical systems that we have. Our pain receptors, our nerves,
they communicate to the brain, ow, ow, ow.
Right, our brain processing it. We can't avoid it, and that's one of the, when we talked about pain in a previous episode, that's one of the things that makes it so stark, is that it can't be turned off. Like, we just have to live with it. It's that fundamental. But there's a difference between that physical pain and the mental pain that we experience. We have no agency over the physical pain, but we do have some degree of agency over the mental pain that we experience. I mean, the entire profession of therapy and psychology and psychiatry would not exist if we didn't. If our mental pain was the same, purely A causes B, cause and effect sort of thing that physical pain was. By behaving, reflecting, thinking, and even guarding ourselves in certain ways, we can minimize or eliminate the mental pain that we experience. And I think that's what this phrase is, what this piece of wisdom is trying to get at, right? It's saying that, gird yourself, like guard yourself against these verbal attacks, and you can make a difference. Like, sticks and stones, they're going to break your bones. It doesn't matter what your state of mind is. They're going to hurt you.
They just can do it. Yes.
Yeah, right. But words, you actually have an effective shield against, and that's by taking some preemptive psychological action and not allowing yourself to be damaged by them. And I think there is some wisdom in that. What do you think about that?
I do. I think it's a good case that, like, it's just it's almost at the semantic level. If you say words will never hurt me, and I go, you idiot, of course words hurt, I am right. But if you say no, I mean, I'm going into this difficult thing. I know that there are painful accusations going to be, tossed my way, but I'm not, like, words will never hurt me is like me going in there with a shield and a perspective and collecting my sense of autonomy and saying I'm not going to allow this to happen. Then I think that's a good thing. So I guess that's what my when I say, like, if I'm to interpret it the way I think it was intended, I think it's fundamentally rooted in something good, and I think that's the way it's received. I mean, we heard this stuff when we're like, even. I mean, it was right alongside "I'm rubber and you're glue." Whatever you say, bounces off of me and sticks to you.
Yeah.
It was just a sort of saying, "Hey, I have autonomy here in this exchange, and I don't have to allow it to stick to me." I actually think they're the same.
They are the same.
Thing.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much the same.
And they're both they're both like delivered to kids at a similar age, and so I think it's received as intended. So I actually don't, even though I can sit here and kind of sound intellectual and maybe sound surprising when I say I think it's anti-wisdom, I think I do actually ultimately come around to there's wisdom in treating mental pain as something we can exercise autonomy over.
Yeah, mind over
and
matter.
I think it's and I think it does, or mind over mind. I don't know. I think that I think it is intended and received correctly, and so therefore it's more wise than it's actually anti-wisdom. So I guess you made your case to me, and I actually concede that I think it's ultimately, like, there's some danger in it, or I can take, but like I'm being a little bit pedantic to say it's going wrong, because I don't think it is generally received as, like, oh yeah, words don't hurt. It's just saying, hey, words. It'd be more accurate and less pithy to say words can hurt me, but I can battle against them.
Yeah, like, sure, right. Yeah, I think so too. And I wouldn't rate it a 5 on the wisdom scale, because it does have some of those little pitfalls, and you can pick it apart. And, like, you shouldn't just blithely wander into situations in which people could verbally attack you, or certainly being insulted or verbally belittled by someone you care about can be very painful, and there's not that much that you can do to guard against. You can try to guard against it, but it's still going to be painful. So
it also has no insights on how to guard.
That's true.
I think there's something often bits of wisdoms have some specificity, and this is more just like, you got this. Don't let words get you down.
That's true. Yeah, the saying doesn't extrapolate on how you can avoid the pain of verbal attacks. So it kind of suggests, I'm imagining playground situations, right, when this is said, and like, what would a child do armed with this phrase? They would probably just totally dismiss out of hand whatever attack is being done to them, right? The bully saying, "You're ugly, you smell bad." Like they just dismiss it and say, words will never hurt me. I'm not even going to entertain what you're saying. And for a
Yeah.
child on the playground, that's probably a very appropriate response, right?
Yes.
Total and utter
Yes.
dismissal. But in other broader contexts, there are different strategies for avoiding mental pain as a result of verbal attacks. You can't simply dismiss everything, right?
Yeah.
And the phrase says nothing about those situations.
Yeah.
Let me ask one other question on this one. I think we both noted that this is kind of a childish, in some way, it feels like a childish phrase. It's something that we both probably encountered as kids. And at least I don't hear this phrase anymore. I'm not around kids anymore, so I don't know if they still say it or use it, or if parents say it to their kids. But my subjective impression is that this phrase has gone out of style, and that in our current modern society, this would more often than not be viewed as anti wisdom. I mean, we live in an era where we have concepts such as hate speech and like speech is violence, like these kinds of
Right,
things.
right.
And so saying that words can never hurt me, that seems like anathema to the time that we live in. And I just wondered, like, whether or not that cultural view of this is true. Like, does the meaning of this piece of wisdom change as you go from childhood to adulthood? Like, perhaps is the wisdom rating different for a 9-year-old than it is for a 39-year-old?
That's a good question. I guess that you're asking this at a particularly interesting time, with Cosmo being 2 for me, and like I'm watching a little. It's on YouTube, a free PBS documentary on Mr. Rogers, and I've watched I'm beginning to, like, on a Friday evening, watch 10 minutes of Mr. Rogers with him, and oh my gosh, first of all, it's lovely. All my objections to like TV, he's slow. He comes in, he sings the same song, and he like takes off his shoes, and like he literally will say like, "Hey, I've got something in my bag," and he'll pull out a book, and like, by today's standards, imagine him putting his bag in his lap, digging around a second, pulling out a book.
Edit that out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We're talking 15 seconds of him pulling a book out and going, "Oh, there's a monkey on the cover." And it just and Cosmo is watching and entranced, like he's loving it. And he's going, "Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers," and there will be a 5-minute segment of him flipping through the book, and this is like from the 80s or 70s, and it like zooms in a little on the pictures, and the editing's not great. And it's just, and there's no sound, like it's just like a little hum sometimes when he's not, or the flip of the page. It's just like very low tech and like almost sloppy by today's standards, and I find it endearing. But my point is this: Mr. Rogers' like peacefulness and his like he oozes wisdom that I feel like everyone craves, and I have this idea that like wisdom spoken to children, like there's I think you have to be extra wise as an adult to like distill wisdom in something simple enough for for little kids to receive.
Right.
And like, so the language has to be simple, the length of it has to be simple, the message has to be simple.
Right.
But in order for that to be like to resonate across time and like actually impact kids, it has to be like, I don't want to say useful, but I'm going to just say wise. Like
Right.
there's got to be like, it's got to have something. Like
That's why
roots to it.
I think whoever wrote this phrase, I think it was Benjamin Franklin, originally said this.
Oh, okay.
He did a good job with that. I mean, I don't know that I could do much better, right? It has to be pithy. It has to have, you have to be able to act on it in some beneficial way.
Understand it immediately on some level,
Right.
Like,
It has a little bit of a poetic flow to it,
Yeah.
And so, is it perfect? Is it something that you might, live your life by as an adult? Probably not. But for its purpose, I think it's pretty good.
I think saying it does transcend things. I think it actually, your kind of critique of modern culture is apt, and I think that like I think I'm going to read society through a presumption of goodwill. It's trying to acknowledge mental anguish, and in doing
Right.
so, it's accidentally elevating it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like schools. Like I work every school I'm at. We do these like advisory programs, and around this time of year, we're talking about stress, and I'm not so certain that just putting the slide stress in all caps on the board it's like. And then saying some wise things like it's not about getting rid of stress, it's how to manage it. There's a good type of stress, there's a bad type of stress, and like, reasonably sophisticated takes on stress for kids. But like, honestly, kids, you've got to understand, like if you just are saying stress a lot around them, I'm not so sure. And the same way it's like mental health, where like I don't know.
Right.
It's like the idea of, are you happy, is a question in philosophers. It's a relatively new question asked, and people aren't happier since asking it.
Right.
I don't know that talking about stress like de-escalates stress. Really.
Let me try to tie this to a different concept, like the concept of innocence. When you're talking about children and protecting children, a lot of times you're talking about protecting their innocence. And what is innocence? It's this blissful unawareness of the complexity and the dirtiness and the pain of the world, right?
Yes.
Children have this beautiful way of living life and enjoying the present and like naively going out and doing things, right? The discovery is pure joy and discovery. And that's why we want to protect that. And I think that innocence, we often nowadays associate it with young children, Cosmo's age or even a little older, and we stop thinking about it so much when they become teenagers. But like I think there might be something to be said for even preserving a certain kind of innocence even further along, and in the educational context that you mentioned, maybe even preserving the innocence of not having to think about stress management, like you don't have to quantify your stress that you're experiencing every day and try to go into some program to manage it when you could simply be living life. Because let's be real, the stress that students are facing is, in the grand scope of all the stresses that you experience in life, pretty trivial and minimal. And like, they don't need to be told that what they're going through is stressful. They can just live it. Am I making my point? In some way,
think so.
I think by hyper focusing and quantifying the stress, you're removing that innocence, in some sense, and making them into adults who are now weighed down by considering how stressful everything is.
Yes, if you're always if you're offering stress as the lens through which you should like live your life, then you are like insisting that evaluation constantly take place. It's like imagine every time I was like, Bennett, we're good friends, right? Like we're okay, right? Like why do we have to constantly can't we just have a friendship? Do I have to say like, dude, last time I would have put our like friendship level at like an 88, but I've noticed a trend. Like the last 3 conversations, you've made some kind of dud jokes, and honestly, like like our last podcast for me was not like Bennett just ranted about sports, and like I'm worried we're at like an 86 right now, which is okay, but I'm curious if I see this trend continue, we might have to do something to get it back up. And it's like, what? What?
Right. Yeah,
And
that's not a good frame there. And by the way, 86, 88, are you kidding me? Like, come on, give me some credit here.
And it's out of 100 and like 50 is an average friend. I was giving us a really good score.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh man, do we have an evaluation crisis? Do we need to do some norming here?
I think we need to do some storming or some norming or some whatever.
No. I find myself agreeing and like preserving innocence. I'm a little confused about, or not confused. I'm like thinking about like how I teach the kite runner, and there's a rape scene that's difficult, and they know about it, and they do experience things, and to not pretend that life isn't difficult. But I think I'll tell you something interesting, and this is just objectively true. If I ask, I've asked more than 5 teachers at my school who've taught there for more than 20 years, and they all say the same thing. They say that we used to give more work, like objectively. You can literally look at their old like syllabus, and it just is like we wrote a lot more. Like we had, so like the students wrote a lot more essays and things, and so there have gotten less and less, and they also objectively complain about stress and are unable to turn things in as much. So they're getting less and less work. and their relationship to that work is more and more fraught. I mean, this is where I would lay the blame at like technology and overwhelm and fragmentation and attention and focus and all of that. And I don't want to go on a rant about that, but I think it's true.
Yeah.
But like the point is like it's not the stress they're experiencing, it's the relationship we have with it. And I think we're having kind of clumsy, well-meaning conversations, but clumsy about like, and bringing it up a lot, because the more you talk about it, the more it seems to beget the stress, which means we should talk about it more. And we find ourselves in this, I think, cultural spiral of like, well, what the hell do we do now? You know?
Yeah. It makes me think this may be a really stupid thing to say, but we have the practice of therapy, and people who are experiencing mental anguish, they go to therapy, and they acknowledge their problems, talk about their problems, and they reduce their mental anguish, and it can be effective for some people, but maybe there should be a concept of anti-therapy and like, an active avoidance of nitpicking and diving into the details of problems that you're experiencing. Like, in a way, maybe not discussing something is sometimes, in limited circumstances, better. And I think for kids, a lot of times preserving that innocence is the better option. Obviously, there's some tension there. Like, your job as a parent is to prepare them for the real world, but at the same time, you also have a responsibility to protect their innocence. And so,
I mean, I think you're onto something. I think if you'd have asked me even 2 years ago, I viewed something like therapy, which I don't take, but I was interested in, because I'm like, hey, let's just take like the metaphor of like a machine that's running well but not fully optimally. It's like, well, why would I not want to go in and get it serviced and like so it could operate at absolute optimum function, whatever that means as a human, though. Like, of course, none of us are operating like 100% optimally. So I would have sort of argued that then everybody could use therapy. Like, it's just this sort of improvement thing, and I think that's the sort of, I think I would have been mirroring the cultural messaging, and I now have come full circle to think I'm pretty against that now.
Yeah,
I think therapy is great and should be used for people who need it. I don't want to make, I do want to destigmatize and not make a taboo. I'm still on that train, but I'm not on the therapies for everybody.
Right. I mean, to extend the analogy, you take your car into the shop to get a tune-up or whatever. Why wouldn't you take it in to get it in perfect condition? But like, people are going to be in there under the hood, like unconnecting things and like draining your oil and like just meddling around. And you might get someone who, maybe their training as a mechanic wasn't as good as it could be, or maybe they have an idea of how an engine should be. And so, maybe they make a couple changes for the better, of course, for the better. Or maybe they just
the way
totally
they see it anyway. Yeah.
Right, or maybe they negligently, damage something, or maybe, the way that the practice of being a mechanic is done has changed over the last 5 years, and you just have kind of an old-fashioned car, and so they're going to modernize it a little bit for you. And like, things can go wrong. Like, you're making changes to your engine, and maybe having a functional engine is better than the prospect of a utopian engine that has no problems whatsoever.
Don't fix what ain't broken. There's an aphorism.
I know, it's on my list. That's already on my list.
Is it really?
Yeah. We'll have to. It's not for today, but
yeah.
But for some time in the future, we'll have to go long enough.
We won't go too far into that, but there's just risk involved in doing that kind of work. In the same way that like we should talk about stress for those that are feeling destabilized and not doing well, and like because of stress. But should I, just in a general advisory program, be telling every student it's a stressful time of year, like permission to feel stressed? Like, I don't know. I don't know. They're impressionable. Like, do they go like, well, I'm almost stressed that I'm not feeling the way I'm being told I should feel. I guess I should perform stress. I guess I should, like, because kids relate the way they relate through grades, how much they have to do, hating an assignment, a history thing, or an English essay, like, or complaining about the food or whatever, right? Like, they just kind of tend to relate through negative shared experiences. And so if we offer them stress as a negative shared experience, they will like catastrophize.
Right. You remind me, this reminds me of an experience I had a long time ago back in college. I had to take a biology course, and I was an engineer, so the biology course was an easy course to me. It wasn't math or anything; it was just memorizing facts. And I remember I had an exam in biology, and I went into like the lobby in front of the lecture hall before class, and was just sitting there with some of the other students. Now I didn't live on campus, and so I didn't interact with a lot of the other students in college. And so I wasn't kind of embroiled in all of their discussions and preparations for the exam and studying and all that kind of thing. And I was listening, and some student, I don't remember who it was at this point, was saying, I stayed up all night last night studying. I'm so stressed. Like, I'm going to fail. I couldn't remember everything. This is going to be so hard. Just really catastrophizing and talking about how intense the studying was. And meanwhile, and I started to get worried because all I did was like glance over my notes in the car before walking into the building. I didn't study at all. I just like was like, oh yeah, we have an exam today. I better read over my notes. And I read over my 4 pages of notes and then walked in to take the exam. And I remember having in that moment a little spike of anxiety, like, oh no, am I underprepared? Like this person studied for 24 hours straight, and I studied for 15 minutes, just reading my notes.
That's like not okay. If that person has a scale of what's appropriate, you are screwed.
Right, something is wrong. And of course, being who I am and whatever cultural wisdom has infused me, I essentially dismissed their experience as crazy and stuck to my prior experience. And of course, I took the test and it wasn't hard and everything was fine. And that reinforced, my disillusionment with other people and their catastrophizing. But like, it goes to show that like in some alternate universe where Bennett did live on campus and was around all these people, and perhaps the professors and the teaching assistants were all talking about stress management and how you should, devote 4-hour brackets to studying, and you can
go see the baby goat yoga to relieve your stress.
Right.
And you almost get this Pavlovian conditioning when you see like free popsicles during stress-free week, or you get stressed with like nice stressed. Things. Like, oh god, baby goats are on campus.
Oh no, what's happening? There are baby goats around. What's going on here?
Oh, the counselors are saying come to them if we're not feeling well. Like,
right.
What's
and
happening?
It makes you live in this soup of stress, and I don't think that's always a good thing. All right, we've been on this one for a long time.
We've killed this one.
Let's step
forward. Be a little faster on the other ones.
Let's step forward. I think this one will be faster anyway. So the second. Oh, but by the way, what's your final rating on the first one, 0 to 5? What did you come down on?
3.5.
Yeah, I think I'm at about I think I'm about in the same place, situationally wise. Yeah. All right, the next one. Snitches get stitches.
I also think this is anti-wisdom, is my knee jerk. Snitches get stitches is just designed to like basically not tell on like there's a community, whether it's a brotherhood or a sisterhood, or like we do not tell the authorities on each other. We might have our own problems with each other, but like there's a code of ethics in which you don't tell the authorities, and if you do, it is disgraceful to the point of violence being committed upon you, I guess, is the general, like, what that's communicating. Is like, you better, and if you, but really it's more of a threat. If you do, like, if you don't, it's not just saying, here, like, come on, there's a brotherhood here, let's honor it. It's, if you violate this, you will have violence. You, and if you kind of, if that becomes just the thing everyone agrees with, then when that person who like told authorities for various reasons, maybe they were snitching for their own benefit, which I can see why that's a disgusting thing, or maybe they told the authorities because they thought it was the right thing to do. But whatever reason they did, if they're found out and they have violence inflicted upon them, you can kind of shrug your shoulders and go, well, snitches get stitches. Like, they knew the rules. So you're justifying violence. And I think, as a rule of thumb, I think that if your aphorism justifies violence, you should really give some pause and say, because I kind of want to go out on a limb and say, like, violence is never okay. I don't actually think I agree with that, but it's a good starting place to go, violence needs to be justified deeply. Like, you're going to have to really convince me that it was the last possible action and that it somehow is not begetting more violence and putting us in a cycle. Like, I tend to believe violence is almost never the answer. And so something that justifies it or like casualizes it or normalizes it is terrible. I think if you're in a community that like champions this phrasing, it shows this like it's an admission of the low quality of your culture and community. It's such that your distrust with the authorities is to the extent that like the truth is, any community to be successful needs to partner meaningfully with the authorities. That doesn't mean you always have to agree, or not, you can't be skeptical, or there can't be some historical like pasts that were difficult. But like, if you're going to get out of a bad cycle, there needs to be a partnership with those in power, and when you don't have power, so I think I'm just being kind of obvious about like
no. I mean, you covered a lot of the things that I thought too. I mean, the phrase "snitches get stitches," it's evocative of kind of a mafia or gang type hierarchy or something, right?
It ultimately, yes, and it preserves the power of the bad, those like, if it's a mafia or a gang and you don't tell on us or we're gonna beat you up, like you don't tell the authorities, but it's a way of maintaining your authority for that gang or that mafia. And really, it would be better for communities to like get rid of that like gang or mafia. Like, we'd be better off. Maybe.
I mean, all right, yeah.
It's a good...
Listen, I agree with your analysis. I think it's a very solid analysis, and it's the same one that I would have to knee jerk. But I want to try to give the devil his due on this one a little bit, and so. While I agree that this phrase is essentially a threat, it also, at its heart, promotes loyalty. Right? That's what we're promoting here. Is we're promoting the idea that your word is your bond. You have some alliance, some loyalty, some connection to others in your group, family, tribe, mafia gang, whatever it is. You have some connection there, and you don't betray that trust, because it's those social connections that allow us to move forward into the future. And if you can, if we take it out of the mafia gang context and just put it into some other little local group that may not be as nefarious, then certainly betraying that group that you have close ties to is a bad thing. Does it warrant violence? Well, I think maybe that's a separate question that we can ask. But the threat of consequence for betrayal, that's a thing that has to be communicated. You need to inform people that betrayal will not be tolerated. I mean, think about it in our United States law, right? When we have concepts of treason and sedition that we punish very harshly if you betray the values and norms of our culture or our law. And so really built into our law, we have snitches get stitches, right? Like if you sell our national secrets to another country, you're going to jail.
If our secrets you sell, you get the jail cell. you get the cell. You go to jail. But seriously,
we got to get David on here for some better rhymes.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, you're right, and for me, a tongue-in-cheek way. Like I find myself agreeing. I'm not buying it actually. Let's be honest. Like, consequences of betraying a group is a good and natural thing. This one's just highly aggressive, and I think destructive.
Right. Let me ask. I agree with you. And that was probably my best case.
It's just like I don't find myself budging based on your argument. I'm like yes, but that's not what this saying is. Like you're having to soften it to the degree that it's not representing it's instead of being like, hey, in-group loyalty is worthy of consideration. Mm-hmm. It's hey, if you betray us, I will commit violence on you. That's
let me just ask then, in whatever context you want to situate it, when is it okay to break your word to someone or breach confidentiality? because that's really that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
talking about here.
Yeah.
And like,
Okay.
snitches, sometimes presumably it's the right thing to do to snitch, and sometimes it's the wrong thing to do to snitch.
Yes.
So like, can you shed some light on where that
That's
line
a
is?
tough question. When you say when is it okay to breach confidentiality or loyalties? I mean, I think, let's say as a teacher, I have some clear. If a student, I'll go through some scenarios. Like, if a student, I mean, I'm a mandatory reporter, so like I kind of there's a cop out I use when a student says I need to tell you something really serious, and I can tell this is actually not like I broke up with someone. It might be. I just remind them. I said, before you tell me I'm a mandatory reporter, if I believe your life's in danger, like, I will get you the help you need. And they tend to, they know that already. And so when they do, like, I kind of like don't feel like I'm betraying trust. I feel like they're crying out for help in a complicated way.
Yeah.
So, and maybe I'm justifying here, but like, they might want to get a little mad at me for telling, for reporting. But I believe that, like, they just needed to act like they needed it to be beyond their control. I told him in confidence and he betrayed, so that's why this is happening. And they can be mad at me when really they just
Plausible
needed help.
deniability.
Yes, and they can put that on me, and I can bear that burden and get them the help they need. Like, fine, that is so easy for me to bear that burden. And I guess, but similarly,
But that's kind of a wink wink, or at least you're interpreting it as a wink wink.
I'm choosing to interpret it. Yes.
But what about when is it okay to like a student or
they
a
don't
friend
want it
or a family
told.
member, whoever, they actually confide in you a secret or some information. Like, when is it okay to break that?
I mean, because you can go a little further than maybe. I don't know if this would surprise you, but like, if a kid tells me about like drinking at a party, I don't feel any need to, and like they're really sharing in confidence, and the thing is, they're actually wanting to responsibly navigate and consider these things with a trusted adult. And so, like, I will, like, discourage them or remind them of the dangers of that, and thank them for being honest and help them wrestle with these ideas. But, like that are, like, I wish that, and encourage them, by the way, to fold in, like, a counselor or something, versus, like, I am suicidal or I've been doing this, and then I do go tell, and I have. Like, that's probably happened 4 or 5 times over my career where I've had to, like, go tell someone. And so, and the kid actually has ultimately never, like, hated me for it. But to your point, like, let's say you tell me something, when am I going to betray? Like, I'm trying to make it even more like, what would Bennett have to tell me that make me betray his trust, like, as a friend? And it's like, it's pretty far, man. I guess it would be it would be in the, like, suicidal thing. It would be like, and not even just like, I've thought about death and, like, what that would be like. It would be more like, I need to get help to you quicker than I can, like we need to make, I just need to fold in more people to get you the help you need. So I guess it is the mandatory but reporting line, except take that out of the equation. It is we need more troops to help you be safe. Like, there's like an immediacy of safety issue that it just transcends abstractions about relationships and bonds. It's like, no, your safety's in peril. I will, like, that's number one priority, and then, like, bonds and loyalties are, like, next in line, and because those are holy. But like, your body being on this earth is, like, priority number one, like a prerequisite to loyalty and trust and things like that.
Let me try. This is more of a mind your morals here, and I'm just totally pulling these out of thin air, so they don't have any preparation. But let me just try to think of some situations. What if let's see, what if I was driving in my neighborhood and I hit my neighbor's dog in my car, right, and killed the dog, and I, instead of doing the right thing and telling my neighbor and saying I'm sorry and doing whatever I need to do, instead I just go bury the dog and I don't do anything, right? My neighbor's all upset and they don't know where their dog is, and I tell you about this. Do you, like, is that enough for you to, like, say it's a mutual friend? I know this is ridiculous, but say it's a mutual friend. Is that enough? Is that a situation in which you reveal...
It's a mutual friend too who loves their dog.
Yeah,
so
let's say it's David. Let's say it's David, and I run over David's dog. I hit Tucker totally accidentally, not intentionally. I definitely don't do it because he was... I definitely don't do it because he was yapping at me nonstop for 17 hours.
Wait, are you being serious? Like, is there like some intentionality or no? You accidentally.
No. It was in the situation. It was totally an accident. Okay. But maybe
that might change things. I don't know.
Maybe that's why I don't tell him, because he knows that I'm annoyed with Tucker, and
he might even suspect.
He might suspect, and so I just can't handle the situation, and so like.
Okay,
but I tell you, right? I have to get it off my chest,
right,
so I
so
tell you, and
know.
I say, listen, I feel really bad about this. Don't tell David. I don't know why I behaved in this way, but I did, and like, let's just not discuss it. All right, is that a situation?
Okay, let me just walk through this.
But before you answer,
yes.
Let me tell you, snitches get stitches. All right, so if you answer in the wrong way, our friendship rating, it's 86 right now, but I'm just saying that's not permanent.
That's funny. I am like hurt, or like I disagree morally with what's going on pretty deeply.
Of course,
I really do. And so I would whenever I feel that like that my disgust response is strong in the moment of your actions. Not that you hit the dog because that was an accident, but like if you're like saying, and I would also try basically to interpret you saying I'm not going to tell as sort of a panicked response. I'm choosing to say, Bennett, I'm going to receive that as like you're hurting and scared, and this is a difficult situation, and of course your impulse is to say what preserves my safety and my whatever. I want this to go away, and then I would try deeply to coach you into telling David deeply,
sure.
And I would preserve that secret over time. And I think I might though arrive at like the ultimatum of I'd be pretty close to saying you've got. After days of this, maybe even a week of this, I'd say you've got to tell David this, because I actually believe this is sort of like a lie to the extent that it's going to haunt you and it like maybe even erode your friendship with him and with me in some ways that's hard to quantify, and that we have to get through this. So you have 3 days to tell him before I do. Like I'm being serious. I think that's where I'd probably land after hoping to get you to tell him. I think. Because I'm assuming he's grieving over Tucker, and this is a big deal, and David's kids are crying and upset too, and it's not the kind of thing like, oh dude, it's just a dog, 2 weeks, it'll blow over. It's like, I don't know, man. I think you're underestimating. Not that I necessarily agree with the relationship people have with dogs, and that's no comment on David specifically, but like,
so
but like
you
their
would
pain
so
is real.
if I hit the dog on Monday and I confided
and we
in
talked
you,
about it for days, like longer conversations.
And all of the grieving and the upset stuff is happening, and then you don't talk about it forever, but you're still upset, of course. And then like at some point, like after a week or something, you're telling me like you got 3 days to come clean, or
possibly.
Or
this is me sorting through. I'm not 100% sure how I'd react, but like a week after you've.
I mean, it's an unlikely situation anyway, because I wouldn't have to be convinced. I would have hit Tucker intentionally in the first place. So I'm just kidding.
I think after a week of. It's also, these are real people, so I'm thinking like I think I could I think Bennett would arrive at telling David after like some longer conversations, but you're still not. Because the reason is, and again maybe this is a perception thing that I'm fooling myself, but I actually believe you're going to erode your friendship with him and with me, and that like although you hate what I'm doing, it's kind of arrogant, but I honestly believe I'm preserving a lot more than I'm harming here.
All right, then let's play that out. And I still say, no, please don't. I can't do it. Don't tell him. I'm not telling him. I'm not telling him. And now the ball is in your court. And
I go to David and I say, I think I go, David, this is very difficult for me, but you need to go ask Bennett what happened to Tucker. Like he has something to tell you. And,
and I say, I don't.
So he goes and he tries and he comes back and says, Bennett just acted confused, or like, I don't understand like what's going on. Daniel, tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tell him.
Okay.
I sound like a
And you
jerk
don't-
here.
I know,
but think
and you don't think that would damage our
I think
friendship?
it would. I think it would, and I think there'd be repair to
And
be
do you
done.
think I would have any ground to stand on morally, saying, dude, like, we're friends. You're like, you're supposed to. Like, I confided in you. I
think
told
over
you that.
I think over our hours long conversation during that week before I gave you the ultimatum, I would actually be trying to be open to, because like part of me wants to get on your side and make this go away. Like I really do want to be convinced.
Right.
And
All
so
right,
okay.
I get that. Let's. I think the personal ties are making it more difficult because David.
But I think it has to be like it's like because here's the deal. I think yes, I would damage our friendship, but like me also partnering with you in silence would damage our friendship. I would just kind of be like, dude, Bennett, like he just like operates in the world in a way that is different. That I like. There's some trust issues about honesty. Like I just think the damage is there. It's just how does it manifest? Does it manifest through leaning into the friction and telling the truth and seeing what happens, or does it lean in, or do we just kind of like get a weird distance start to grow? And I'd rather lean into the friction and try to repair openly and honestly.
What if I found a briefcase with $200,000 in it,
Okay.
and then later on the news, we find that I don't know, the police lost it, or it's some government money or whatever, and they misplaced it and they can't find it, and they put out a call for it to be returned, and I don't return it. I say
It's the government, like it's some or a corporate. It's just some like kind
It's
of
some-
like
yeah,
big,
some-
wealthy,
right.
not individual,
Right,
but
not
like
individual, some faceless thing that they're not going to be. It's not like grandma's life savings or whatever. It's something that could be written off, but it's not mine. I find it.
Yes.
I don't steal it. I find it,
Yeah.
and I choose not to turn it in. And I tell you, is that something that you would like? Let's say they even say, "Oh yeah, there's a $2,000 reward for turning in this $200,000."
Right.
You know.
I don't know what it says about me. My knee jerk is to go like, I don't even immediately, like, if you were like, what should I do with this? I wouldn't say you should return it, but I won't tell on you if you don't. I would say, dude, we got to get a pros and cons list. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
This one's tough because I think it is immoral stealing from the government or the whatever, and we can say it's faceless and not a what do they call it? Like there's no what you call it crime,
Victimless crime.
a victimless crime, but like I think that's a cop out in some ways, and I think you're still violating like some moral principles. And so I would be like, we're putting that on the pros and cons list. Con, you're like, you're dangerously playing with like flexibility in your morals, and like that's just fundamentally like what's your self-worth, But my self-worth might be $200,000. like, what's it worth? I don't know. We're getting close to it, man. And so like and let's just say you were hardcore on the I don't want to return it. Then I think my job would be like, okay, that's a very understandable position, one that I might even share, but like I'm going to play devil's advocate and try and convince you why. And we're going to talk about this for a week. And then I guess then I'd have to wait and see how I feel after weighing all of that.
Right.
But I don't think, and let's just say I came on the side of, well, you should return this, Bennett, and you just said, nope, I don't think I'd report you.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't think it would like damage the friendship. I just think it's one of those quirky, awkward things I'd have to go like, yeah, man, that one's
That's a crazy thing
one of
that
those.
happened. Yeah.
That's a gray area that we have a difference on that I can definitely tolerate, and like I think I'd be okay just kind of looking the other way and hoping you'd say like, thanks for your discretion. Here's $10,000, or maybe even like here's 50 or something.
Come on.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
I wouldn't threaten you with it though. I really wouldn't expect you to give me any of it. But I'd be like, dude, you're getting the next appetizer at Chili's. Like,
There we
you're
go.
picking up them.
Some cheese sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? What on that one? Do you feel strongly that I should have like?
Listen, again, saying this without putting a lot of real thought into it.
I know,
Just
I'm
the
giving you
difficulty-
knee-jerk.
It's the
Like,
difficulty
yeah.
with hypothetical situations, but like one of my very strong personal values is loyalty to friends. And so, especially with a friendship as long as ours, and like just fluctuating between an 86 and an 88 friendship level, like you're gonna have to do a lot before I breach our friendships, like confidentiality, and rat you out. Like I will.
So if I've hit Tucker's dog, you might not even.
I will judge you. I will berate you. I will tell you you're doing something wrong. I will say I don't like the way you're behaving. I will try to get you to admit that you behaved in the wrong way. But like ultimately, I'm gonna respect that it's your decision to come clean on.
It's complicated
something.
with the dog thing. Do you not have some moral responsibility in that case, though? Or you're just saying your shortcut is to say like he needs to do it, and I've told him, so that's a way of kind of clearing your conscience in some ways.
I don't know.
And I'm saying I feel more morally invested, like now that I know this and could take steps to rectify it.
It's very difficult, and
it makes sense though with Bennett and Daniel, like that you would go, that's their decision, like they live their life, and I'd be like, I don't know, I feel more intertwined in this decision making than I should, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, there's gray area, and I'm not gonna absolutely come down on one side or the other, but my knee jerk, I think I lean in the direction opposite to you, and I would keep the confidentiality. I wouldn't withhold judgment, but I would keep the confidentiality and like hope that the pain that you're observing and the guilt that you feel will ultimately win out. And you would do the right thing.
I guess
if you didn't, if like months or a year went by and you still didn't, like, that would just kind of factor into like, oh yeah, whatever. Or maybe over time, after the pain has gone away, eventually you are able to talk about it or something.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing too. Is that over time do they come to an answer that seems like the morally right thing? Right. And you said hitting a dog. Like if you went into something like cheating or something like that too, I thought that's where you were going to go. First, the dog hitting's like, I think probably they're both just very interesting.
Maybe I should actually do a Mind Your Morals on this kind of thing, because there are a lot more situations popping into my head that we don't have time to delve into.
Let's get to our next phrase. Well, we're an hour in, and I want to kind of like do a little speed run. Oh, just one more?
I have the last one. Yeah, the last one. What's your rating on Snitches Get Stitches?
1.5.
1.5. Yeah, I was thinking maybe a 1 or 2. More anti-wisdom than wisdom.
Yeah, I went up from a 1 to a 1.5 after a conversation, but that.
All right, last one. Time heals all wounds.
Well, us, we're jumping to that word, that modifier, all, and you're like, nuh-uh. But the spirit of it, that time softens, most wounds. Time softens most wounds. But I'm going to choose to receive. I think that's just what it's saying is like, hey, there are no quick fixes to everything, but time gives us perspective and softens the immediacy. So my knee jerk is like a 4 or a 5, like very much in that category. That's just my knee jerk. And so now I'm getting into the why. Like distance, whether it's like, let's go back to the pain as the origin of this whole discussion. Like my relationship with pain, once you get distance from it, is that pain's especially interesting. Like say childbirth, or pain is one of the most like readily forgotten things, or else we would be so scared of stubbing our toe or cutting our hand on that piece of paper, or like we forget and we move on from pain. Or you'd never have a woman give birth more than one kid. You'd just be like, nope, not doing that again. Or like we would just navigate the world with such fear. So it's interesting that this whole time and wounds and so like distance from pain gives us a relationship. Like we can remember where we got hurt. You can probably even see a little scar from an ant bite or something. But like, so you like have this like intellectual catalog of the pain, but if you could reclaim that, the intensity of that pain, you might even know, like, I put it at a 9 out of 10 pain, but like, I just really don't believe you can, in the way you can like smell food and time travel back to those moments. I think it's difficult to do that with pain intentionally. Like, I think biologically woven into us, like that would be a miserable thing. I mean, I can just recall misery, but it's like a clinical recollection. Thank God, right? And so I think that's because time has healed that wound to some degree. But that's not to challenge my own perspective. I can get emotional thinking about Danielle's infection post. Like, that was one of the more terrifying and painful experiences I've been through, tangentially, I guess. Danielle being in the hospital and coding and weird things happening, and so that fear. But even then, like, I feel that my body does something about when I start to get emotional. I feel like something weird happens where, like, I just am incapable of continuing to process with the clarity. Like, there's some clarity, like I can the beeps and the imagery start to go in my head, and then I start to feel emotional, and then it's like, I'm not kidding, Bennett, but like, I can't recall, like, as I get emotional about that pain, the images like evaporate, like I can't hold on to them. It's a strange thing. So like, it starts to come back clearly, and then it starts to wash away as the tears or the emotions start to surface. So I don't know what that means, but I think distance via time provides clarity, and when that clarity is what I'm calling
lack of clarity.
Well, in this case, I guess lack of vividness, but like I'm just thinking of people like maybe people go through a painful divorce or lose their loved ones, and then they, like, that pain doesn't go away, but like their relationship to it becomes more manageable,
numb to it, or
I don't know if it's numb. It's just like a familiar ache that like might be more manageable, because I think the throes of immediate grief, like I'm talking the like drop to your knees and wail type grief, you're not doing that. They take the most like painful moments in people's lives that you can even imagine, like their child dies, right? That's like what I think of as like being and in 10 years, I bet they do sometimes still cry, or 20 years or 40 years later, they might still have pockets of emotional overwhelm where they cry. But I feel like it's distinctly different than the I don't want to be on this earth. I imagine those feelings like in the days and weeks and months after after a tragic loss. So I think it's just like
your little yappy dog gets hit.
yeah, or worse. So I think so. Back to the aphorism, "Time heals all wounds." It's something that usually comforts you in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy, to say, look,
imagining yourself in the future, not being as in pain.
Yeah, doing better. Like you'll survive this, and it will be better than it is right now. And I think it's not a lie. That's why it's comforting, and that's why I put it high.
Yeah, my analysis is pretty similar, as you might expect. I mean, you can be pedantic and you can focus in on that word "all" and say, does it really heal all wounds? And then you also have to separate physical wound. We talked about physical and mental pain, and here, there are also physical and mental wounds. Does time heal all physical wounds? Well, not fully. It obviously your body does repair over time, but you can accumulate damage, and time might not heal that. Like, you might injure a joint or something and it never fully heals. But I don't think that's the essence of this phrase.
It's really almost all a mental.
Exactly. Right? It's talking more about emotional pain.
But even if you find yourself wheelchair bound for the rest of your life, your relationship with the wheelchair improves. True.
You do get used to
it.
I mean,
it doesn't heal, but like you just learn, like you adapt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One snarky response that I thought of to this is, well, if this is true, wouldn't old people be the healthiest of everyone, right? Time heals all wounds. They've had the most time, so all of their wounds are healed. I mean, that's stupid. I guess the most interesting thought that I had on this one is that part of what makes this aphorism true is that our memory is not perfect. A lot of times we bemoan our imperfect memories and we think, oh, if only I could remember all the details and relive that moment. And, if I had a magical device that could, recapture it, or if I could go back in time and re-experience it. And we have rose tinted glasses in that way, thinking about situations that have happened. But in a totally different set of circumstances, it's a really, really good thing that we can't remember with detail everything that we've been through.
Yeah.
Because
then forgiveness would become near impossible in some situations.
that's a really good point. Yeah, like if you ever have conflict with someone that you resolve, or maybe even only half resolve, like always having that distinct memory would be a really hard thing to live with. And similarly,
letting things go, if you remember with 100% clarity,
right.
not a good thing. You need to let it go.
And experiences of pain, like the deaths of family members, or breakups, or whatever emotionally traumatizing things you've been through, like if you could perfectly remember those, then it would be much harder for time wouldn't heal those wounds, because the wounds would be just as fresh as if they had just happened.
This is a good full circle moment. So like our relationship, whether it's with stress or the thing we talked about, like pain in our relationship, and I don't want to lose this train of thought. The distance, the time you get from something allows us to have a different relationship with the memory, allows us to elevate moments of it that are true, have the perspective that we want to have it. Because I'm thinking of those that are embittered, that get angry in life,
right.
Or perceive themselves as having bad luck or whatever. It seems to me that like so many things happen in life, and we get to choose which to emphasize and elevate and celebrate. And like those that are embittered, like really lean into those negative moments and start a narrative around their life about how so and so, like kind of external blame and loss of autonomy. And like, because it's actually true that so many things happen beyond your control that it's almost worth shrugging your shoulders and giving up. And then it's also true that like so many beautiful things based on like the hard work you put in and the preparation you put in, and so like it's just which is a matter of you choose. Like it's our relationship. It's not the memories themselves. It's like the perspective we choose to elevate over time and solidify. It's the, we talk about the like bucket of stories our parents have about our childhood. Like if my bucket of stories was like
bad,
if they bad, or like being a pain, or like being like out of control wild Daniel versus like kind Daniel, like they were both probably true, like parents form narratives around their kids that like become their inner voice. And I think it's and we form narratives around ourselves. Like it's no secret that I have like a narrative around myself that like I'm a good storyteller, and that I like am radically honest and sometimes provocative. And you have this narrative that you're like good at like you're like an intelligent person that has like logic and problem solving and puzzle solving skills and a creativity about you. And like we have strong narratives of ourselves that are confident, and that's very important because it's true. But we could have a narrative around some negative aspect of our personality that we are aware of.
Right.
But like I know this about you and me, that I don't put it at the forefront of my like who I am. Like I just don't let that be that. My defining qualities are the like good things, and so I'm not embittered by my like limitations or whatever. Yeah. Sorry.
No, yeah, that's all good points. I guess one other kind of thought-provoking question that I had, and maybe we'll wrap with this: does time ever make wounds worse? Like are there situations in which this is anti-wisdom? Or maybe it's wisdom in 4 out of 5 or even higher percentage of times, but is it ever anti-wisdom? Can it ever go astray?
Yeah, time could make things work. Let me go with the example of the embittered person. And if I'm making a caricature of that person, they're like an alcoholic, they're older and alone, right? And that defining moment in their life where something went wrong, like they never got back on track, and they kind of ruminated, and it spiraled, and it defined them in a very bad way, and they think they're low self-worth, and the world's conspiring to get them, and blah blah blah. So now they live in a trailer with like littered beer cans around them and a pot belly, and they don't bathe, and they just whatever. And it's interesting that I chose an alcoholic, because I believe sometimes when you like engage in substance abuse, you kind of press pause on your life as far as like developing. Like you don't experience time in the same way. You just are using it as a coping mechanism instead of like engaging in a productive struggle and advancing and like forming a good healthy relationship. You kind of press pause and say nah, and so you fester, in your stagnation. You remain stagnant. And so I think 100% that but you could argue that like the alcoholic is not engaging in time the way when we say time heals all wounds. This is a person actually rejecting time, engaging in a substance, and therefore not allowing themselves to heal.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But that's just like that. It's funny that my mind went to that, and I say that because some of my dad's perspective on alcohol, or my mom saying that, like, I remember this, like someone we knew, and I'm really forgetting who, but like decided to get sober at 40, but something happens when, like, if you you went down your alcoholic path at say 14, like seriously this happens, right? Like someone's like has a rough life and they turn to alcohol and they're 14 and they've been an alcoholic since 40. Well, when they're getting sober, it's like apparently, and I'm just speaking off the cuff here, it's not uncommon for them to like be kind of like immature, and it's like, well, because they've pressed pause and they haven't developed coping mechanisms, so they're now engaging in the world soberly, so they're out there, but they're acting almost like a 14-year-old in terms of their skill sets in the world about like navigating difficult social situations. And like that just is remarkable to me about like, well, they haven't experienced time in the same way, they haven't developed similarly. And so if you are like sober and engaging with the world, then time heals all wounds. But like there are ways to disrupt time as is meant in that aphorism.
I think what the one that came to mind to me is kind of similar in a way. Like you use the word rumination, and that's what came to mind for me. Like maybe someone who's predisposed to anxiety. Maybe there's some small slight or insult, or I'm thinking in the context of a relationship, maybe there's something said that was offensive or whatever, just some little thing though, a little thing, but that little thing, this person who can't let it go, right? And maybe there's some time apart and they're just ruminating on it. Time is going by and they're thinking about, wait, I can't believe that they said that. Like that really hurt. And like, do they really believe that? What if they believe this too? They have to go together, right? It can't just be this one isolated thing that they said. Surely there's others. They probably hate me, blah, 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 blah. And, it just spirals and goes on and on and on. And time is passing and the wound is growing, really. Now go ahead. And you can make a couple of arguments against that. Obviously, that's a disordered mindset to inhabit. But
we do that with the people we don't like. Like we kind of link all the negative things. Even if I have a healthy perspective, I'm thinking of like some people that maybe like I have a more difficult time liking naturally, and I go like, yeah, they're this way, so I have this negative narrative of them, and then I pile it on, and I like not catastrophize, but I elevate those negative elements when. Like we villainize people on like we are more likely to make caricatures of them and in that way dehumanize them as like this complex being who has some, good qualities and bad qualities and all those things, and we just emphasize them. But like the disordered mind does that to all people around them, and the world is this collective force against them. That's when it becomes disordered. It's natural to do that to people and healthy to disrupt. Right. But it's disordered when you start like doing that all the time toward everyone, and even inevitably like those that are close or even your friends, you somehow are insisting they're not or whatever. It
just sounded to me like in a way that's also pressing pause on time, right? Like you're not letting the moment pass, you're stuck on it, you can't get away from it, and you're just dwelling.
Disordered might not be sober. I'm using the word sober very loosely, but like lucid and that kind of thing. So interesting. Time heals all wounds. That was good.
You're coming down on a 4 or a 5?
I think I'm sticking, because even those counter examples, I'm loosely combating the idea of them experiencing time the way I think we should. And so, I'm going to stick at like a 4.
Okay, yeah, I think a 4 too. The only reason I wouldn't give it a 5 is because this piece of wisdom is more, it's not actionable. Like there's actually nothing you can do. Like, I mean, I guess you could kill yourself, but like otherwise time is going to
say that about anything. I mean, I guess you could kill yourself.
That's true. But like, I guess like time is going to continue whether you like it or not, and therefore your wounds are going to be healed whether you like it or not, unless you take one of these actions and become an alcoholic or you ruminate or whatever. And so like, it's not very instructive. It's comforting, and it's very comforting. In fact, that's why it rates highly as wisdom, but it's not instructive. It doesn't tell you what to do, because time passes regardless of your agency.
Well, this is interesting. Like, there are ways to press pause on time. So I mean, this isn't with like, it's like you and I should come up with a phrase about how it's imperative to allow time to pass. And what we're really saying, I know this is a little tangential, but like, allow the sober, lucid mind, and like allow for like and be patient. Some aphorism about patience and the allowance of time in the context of our definition of time,
Good
which is complex.
things come to those who wait.
Yeah.
I should write that one down too. Should put that on the list.
Good things come to those who bait. Anyway.
That's all pretty wise. Man, we're pretty wise today, I think.
This actually really had some fun with this one.
I really enjoy the segment.
We're back to an 88. That last
nice.
last podcast.
Well, listen, the last podcast wasn't for you. I'm trying to fix a problem in the world, right? I'm trying to rectify a grander wrong. And this time I decided to narrow down our focus a little bit and talk about more mundane things like cultural wisdom and philosophy. So,
all right.
goodbye.
Bye.